Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and start. If you can let me know when we're online.
We're live, sir.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Information Technology and General Services Committee meeting. Today is Wednesday, August 26th. My name is Councilmember Lee of the 12th District. I'm the chair of this committee. I'm joined by Councilmember Bob Blumenfeld from the 3rd District and Councilmember Monica Rodriguez from the 7th District. Let's see. We are going to be starting something new today. Our first item is hearing from the general manager. This is going to be an ongoing thing where we have the general manager report to us every month, giving us different things. But right now, why don't we start with public comment, Mr. City Clerk, if you can explain the instructions, the call instructions.
Yes, sir. As indicated on the committee agenda, members of the public who would like to offer public comment on the items listed on the agenda should call 1-669-254-5252 and use meeting ID 161-118-5702. Again, that's 161-118-5702, and press pound. Press pound again when prompted for participant ID. Once admitted into the meeting, press star 9 to request to speak. When it is your time to speak, please indicate which specific agenda items you would like to speak on. Please turn down the volume of your devices on which you are listening to the meeting to avoid any feedback.
Mr. King, can you give other instructions as to the call-inners, the people calling in, and bring the first caller on?
Chair. Speaker, please state your name and which items you'd like to speak on.
Good afternoon. This is Kira Tashima. I'd like to speak on item 7.
Okay, you'll have 1 minute. Please begin.
Thank you. Good afternoon, honorable committee members. My name is Kira Tashima, and I'm an attorney with Shepherd Mullen and Land Use Council for the Go for Broke National Education Center. To begin, we express our appreciation for all of staff's time and efforts to move the project forward to this important milestone. I'll keep my remarks brief and focus on 2 points. First, on behalf of the Go for Broke National Education Center and the Little Tokyo Service Center, we are committed to the proposed affordable housing project and housing our homeless veterans. It goes without saying that this type of project is really desperately needed in the city. Second, we plan to apply for the next round of HSID's Affordable Housing Managed Pipeline opening this fall. And to be eligible, we need to show site control, including this item before you, the city's approval to negotiate and execute a long-term ground lease for the proposed housing use. We look forward to working collaboratively with the city to move this project forward, and thank you for your consideration today.
Thank you. Speaker, please state your name and which items you'd like to speak on. Hello, speaker. Please state your name and which items you'd like to speak on.
It's Eric Previn. I'd like to speak on all items in a general public comment.
Okay, you'll have 2 minutes for the items and 1 minute for general public comment.
Good, thank you. Excuse me. Item number 11 is an interesting item here. We want to have Department of Cultural Affairs have a look at a policy for de-accessioning, basically unnaming things. We had obviously some confusion about Christopher Columbus, whether or not people wanted to leave that piece of history in place or not. It was taken down. There have been some toppling. I appreciate this. I'd like to unname the park that was named for Englander's mother for $15 million from the Toll Brothers out in CD12. And I'd like to unname anything that has Stafford B's name on it, John Lee, because I'm really disgusted at how that whole transition of Englander out and Greg Smith in as a placeholder, the lobbyist for waste management, went down. I felt that Herb Wesson did that early in the morning when nobody else was around, and I spoke out about it. Nobody gave a, they all kind of looked away in horror because I think people didn't realize at the time that Englander was in trouble with the FBI for being in Vegas with John Lee. So I just think we should not name things after existing politicians. Mark Ridley Thomas is out of control naming things after himself, and he'll be coming in to rename things for himself. And Mike Bonin has a center with Sheila Kuehl, who today there was moving testimony from Krikorian about how she runs the richest tract in America. So that's falling. And a lovely place to live, by the way. I love the 3rd District. Item number 9, I think you have $3 million to do a little interior upgrade with some MICLA money of the Civil and Human Rights Commission, which I am all about civil rights. I like equal time and fairness for all people of all colors in the country. And yet, Herb Wesson is running this city with Nuri Martinez, his little henchwoman, like ask Ted Ross. Why does Rule 93 that says everybody appear the same not get enforced or even complied with? Because talk to Herb Wesson, talk to Nuri Martinez, and, Ackley Padilla does not respond. They give one another raises to keep quiet. So I find that exceptionally bad. Item number 8 is Marquise Harris Dawson would like a field office, and why not stick it in a very popular First African Methodist Episcopal, I guess it's not a church, maybe it's just real estate owned by the church. But what a great way to say thank you by having GSD cut a check to them while, it's a district in which the city clerk made it clear that none of the multiple candidates who got a lot of signatures would make it because she disqualified them. They did so in a most egregious way. The LA Times wrote about why 30% of candidates didn't get on the ballot in that particular
Mr. Speaker,
election.
can you keep it on topic, please?
Yeah, I'm happy to keep it on topic. I don't think that the CD8 field office move around makes a great deal of sense unless we know specifically what the
Speaker, your time limit is up.
What about my general?
That was 3 minutes, sir.
Next speaker.
Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Hi, yes. My name is Eddie Orango. I represent Kaiser Permanente as the land use manager, and I'm here to inform on any matters having to do with the item number 6, lot 103rd Street sale.
Okay, you want to speak on?
Actually, if there's any questions, we're here making ourselves available.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Well, that concludes our public comment for the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. King. Colleagues, if there are no objections, I'd like to take items number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, and 11 on consent. Without any objection? So moved.
Mr. Chair, may I call roll?
Can you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Lee,
Present?
Councilmember Blumenfield,
Blumenfield present.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
Here.
And now, Mr. Clerk, can we take a vote on those items being on consent?
yes, sir. And this vote is for items 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, and 11.
Correct.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Blumenfield,
Aye.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
Aye.
3 ayes. The items are approved.
All right. As I was saying in the beginning of the meeting, really excited to have our general manager for ITA with us today. This is going to be something that we're going to be doing this committee, getting a report. We have a lot of great, hopefully, innovation and technology coming down the line. I think that during this pandemic, it's been a reminder to us of just how important it is that the city stay up to date on its technology. And Mr. Clerk, Mr. Ross, if you want to go ahead and start us off, item number 1 with your report.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, honorable council members. As you can imagine, I think we hit the nail on the head of how much COVID has changed our world. So like other city departments, our world completely changed in March 2020. Within 48 hours of the Safer from Home directive, IT had 12,000 city employees teleworking through our Connect to LA City platform. That number has since grown to over 18,000 employees. We had to build brand new apps for COVID testing, for senior meal programs, disaster service worker deployment, emergency management logistics, etc. To give you a little bit of an example of the scale, Google video meetings used to average around 200 a day pre-COVID. We now average around 2,000 a day. So we have 10 times the number of video conferences and meetings. And all the meanwhile, IT is there to support and assist other employees in being effective and getting the work done. Of course, after the initial surge, we have to keep supporting the new normal. ITA currently, as of yesterday, has 164 open projects that we're working on. So I know your time is very valuable and limited, so I just went ahead and picked 6 of the top projects that I thought could be really informative and worth discussing. So the first one is what we call the Angelino account project. Currently, people in Los Angeles have separate user IDs and passwords for different city systems. For example, if you go into the business portal, you have one user ID and password. If you were to go into Bobbin to compete for city contracts, you have a different user ID and password. A different one in FMS if you get a contract with the city, and a different one in LA Tax if you have to pay your city taxes. So as you can imagine, that's very frustrating. So we've been working with the mayor's office and the chief procurement officer to create Angelino account. What it is, it's a centralized identity management solution so that one user ID and password gets you access to all those different digital services. It improves the user experience. It actually even improves our cyber defenses. We just initiated a soft launch in the Bavin system. We're working with engineering, with the fire department, rec and parks. We're going to introduce it into MyLA 311. And we expect next year that we have the majority of all the city's public-facing apps, regardless if ITA supports it or another department, that they'll be logging in with that Angelino account. So that's one item. A second one I thought worth mentioning were the Rec and Parks daycare centers for LUSD students. Just last week, the ad hoc COVID committee discussed and approved the establishment of Rec and Parks facilities for disadvantaged LUSD students to get them the internet connectivity and park staffs for the assistance they need. Of course, since last week, the IT has been rapidly installing and setting up internet access for 50 Rec and Parks locations. It'll enable these students the tools they need to complete their homework and continue the education during this challenging time. A third item I think worth mentioning is on the public safety side. It's our fire station alerting digital backbone. Fire station alerting, for those who don't know, it's the method to notify firefighters when they're in quarters of the fire or the medical emergency. So it's the way 911 communicates to the fire department. This project has replaced an antiquated and unreliable T1 communications network with a digital IP-based one. This month, the ITA will have completed all 106 fire stations. This new backbone is much more reliable. Some may remember we actually had outages in the old T1 systems, especially when it rained. That's completely unacceptable. And it's also enabling improvement through our fire station alerting program. So a big shout out to LA Fire, who's been assisting us with that project. The fourth one is the regional procurement portal. Pursuant to council motion, the IT has been working with the mayor's chief procurement officer to overhaul our existing LA Bavin system to provide a comprehensive Southern California portal for government and private sector contract opportunities. So in other words, all of the LA city contracts, as well as local regional governments and our private sector partners, will have one-stop shop for small business and medium-sized business to compete. This is especially important as we work towards the Olympics. So the ITA has completed the requirements gathering, and we've already started building on a new platform using the Salesforce system. And we actually have a target launch in January of 2021. So you can expect to hear more about that in future months. A fifth item I thought worth mentioning was the Smart LA 2028 Smart City Strategy. Over the last year and a half, we've been convening a multi-department Smart City Committee, and that's to help formalize the many great efforts that we have at the City of LA and identify new opportunities to make Los Angeles a true smart city. This year, we hired Gartner Consulting to assist us in crafting the strategy. As a result, we have just in the last several weeks drafted a 46-page smart city strategy known as Smart LA 2028. It identifies 56 key goals and projects to make us the smart city that Angelinos expect in time for the 2028 Olympics and Paralympics. We've received initial feedback from our Smart City Committee, and we're in the process of sharing this with your offices for additional review. We're hoping to publish this within the next 60 days or so. And I think one last item thought worth mentioning is let's go into the world of cybersecurity. That's always a fun and at times terrifying conversation. Last year, the city of LA was impacted by a small data breach. A city department had an unsecured app. It was hosted in the cloud and it was accessed by a cyber criminal and made the papers. This is something that certainly could have been prevented and something we find unacceptable. So as a result, the ITA published a citywide cybersecurity memo last November, and we outlined key changes expected from city departments. To prevent this from ever happening again, one thing we established is we think is innovative, but it's a cyber risk score project. So through weekly vulnerability scans of all the department apps and websites, we can create an objective score. And that score, it's based on the FICO model, right? So it's the same kind of globally accepted model used for credit scores. So based on that, we could provide it to general managers every month so that general managers are clearly aware of how their department is doing. So we're always used to working with IT staff and IT managers and others, but we often found the question from a general manager where they say, Ted, just give it to me straight. How is my department doing? And this is an objective, recognized score to provide it. It'll show them where they are each month. It'll show them their trends, how they compare to other city departments, et cetera. And most importantly, how they can improve their score. So what steps they can take on their apps to resolve vulnerabilities and make them more secure. We've already launched this system. We've trained department coordinators in the use of the tool, but in the next 30 days, we expect to finalize our scorecard, and that's what's going to be provided to the general manager. So I know I put a lot out there, and we are working on a lot, but I thought you'd find maybe these 6 projects among the 100 plus others to maybe be insightful as to what IT has been working on lately.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ross. Yeah, I mean, some of the things that you're talking about, I mean, first of all, the connectivity. I think we all know how much not only we as a city, but everyone in the city has come to rely on technology to connect with one each other, and really appreciate all that ITA has done in trying to, I mean, right from the very beginning, and making sure that we can still, run the city and do it in a way that does, serves the people that make up the city. I'm really happy to hear about the rec and park centers. That has been a concern. I know a lot of our private businesses, such as kids gyms and things, have started to change their job model to try to accommodate more things like this. But then there are those families, 2 working parents, kids who might not be, families that may not be able to afford those services. So really happy to hear that we're utilizing our rec centers to try to help that out with that, not only with the connectivity, but to somewhere that they can get some adult supervision. And I'm really happy to hear that you guys are part of that and moving that part forward. You also talked about cybersecurity. Thank you for constantly putting out education for the members, for all of us, because I think that's extremely important. That that we keep all of that information and how we safeguard that. But all the information that you've been constantly pushing out to all the employees of the city of Los Angeles is something that I know has been a huge benefit for all of us in trying to keep everything safe.
And Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt,
No,
but you also probably appreciate the fact that every 2 or 3 months we do email phishing campaigns.
Sure.
Where we send out fake phishing emails trying to get people to click on very suspicious links. So we're actually, I didn't mention it in my update, but we're actually in the process of also sharing the results. But we've already done it 6 different times, and we find that every time we do it, we tend to see that the number of people who click on the suspicious link tend to cut in half. So that's another one of those tricky things we do to really test people.
I know another tricky thing that you guys did one time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we passed. We passed.
Right. You absolutely passed. What the council member is referring to is we took dummy thumb drives with the City of Los Angeles logo and we dropped it in some of the council offices' front areas, the waiting rooms, and we were just waiting to see if somebody plugged it into a computer and it would automatically tell us who plugged it in and where. But it was a very suspicious thumb drive and we were just testing people out. And yes, many of the council offices, to your credit, did pass. Not every department did, but many council offices did. So kudos to you all.
In PD7, we are very honorable. If you drop something, we're going to return it to its rightful owner. We're not going to go perusing through it first.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Rodriguez. It's good to know that. So let us know, Ted, if any of us fail, you can report it. You can report it here.
Yeah, Ted, let us know so that we can put them on blast.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ted. I know that with the budget and I think the three of us that are on this committee, we don't know what revenue is going to look like. Um, you know, in December, as far as city revenues, we don't know what it's going to look like next month. It's this is an ever-changing thing. So I think we're going to try to rely on technology to really keep connected with people and to provide ways where to make sure that we're still providing the best customer service that we can to all the Angelinos that make up the city. So thank you, Ted. I appreciate you joining us and look forward to future reports.
Absolutely.
All right, Mr. Clerk. Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, do you have any questions? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, nice job, John, trying to.
Sorry, I'm new to this.
So, Ted, it's good to see you, and I want to echo my gratitude and that of my team for everything that you've done to keep us operational very quickly. I knew from the very beginning when everybody was like, "Why aren't we meeting?" Or I said, "It's not ITA." I knew that we were in very capable hands. You and your team have done an outstanding job given the circumstances of what you were presented with. And I did before I think the pandemic had met on the updates with the migration from Bobbin to the new Salesforce system, and so I'm looking forward to that. It's good to see all of those initial seeds now, blossoming and advancing, and we're finally going to have hopefully both a procurement system, a bidding system, a centralized system that is going to be accessible and easy to navigate for um, all of a variety of levels of technical aptitude. So I'm excited for that. And what I was going to ask, and you mentioned the app. I remember when the mayor was first elected, and I was on Public Works, and he had lamented how every single department was just overly enthusiastic, and each had developed their own individual apps, none of which were actually maintained or managed by ITA. They were all individually developed, and you know, I recognize that in 2013 it went from basically a very much a decentralized technical infrastructure in terms of what departments were doing versus what ITA was doing, and we've kind of inverted that because we've got the talent now centralized in a manner to help manage it. So my question is, how much of that still exists in terms of that decentralized? I know every department is a little bit different, but in terms of the applications, because I've always found that to be for me, what's problematic is that each individual department now has to create their own audience versus our ability to market something as just a central portal for folks to access city services, right? Whether it's the My LA 311 app should be that kind of central universe for everyone. Has there been efforts around centralizing and kind of doing away with some of those independent efforts so that we can better manage it all centrally in the city?
Sure, absolutely. I think, and you're hitting the nail on the head. There's some areas where we've made tremendous progress, and I think 311 is a great example of that. There is no need for various departments to have their own equivalent of a 311 app. And probably the biggest reason, other than the fact that we're wasting government resources and we're wasting our time and our energy, and we're rebuilding the wheel over and over again, but it's frustrating from an Angelino's perspective. I live in LA. I don't want to have to download one app to submit one kind of issue and download another app to submit another. I wouldn't even know where to find all of those apps. So we have been centralizing, consolidating, I think, quite well when it comes to city service requests and expanding our MyLA 311 app. But there's still a lot of other room to grow. The Angelino account that I'm describing is a good example. The fact that if you're accessing, an app from building and safety or planning, in which you have one user ID and password, but a very different one when you're in MyLA 311, is really unacceptable, and there's no good reason for it. So, it's pretty innovative, believe it or not, for a city to actually have one user ID and password across all of it, but we're very firmly in that process. And most city departments, when they hear about the pitch, they say, great, it's one less thing for me to worry about. You'll handle the login, you'll handle the security, and I'll go ahead and simply help know my customer and build the app that's specific to it. So, there's still areas around websites that we're working on helping establish the centralized style guide. There's still some key areas that we're not where we want to be as a city, but I think I'm very optimistic as we work with new apps like Build LA and that process, and ITA is a part of that. As we work closely with library and rec and parks and DWP and others, I think we're getting better at being a very big, complicated city that feels more like a small one. Because that's what we want to be. We want to feel like a small city digitally, even though we're a very big one physically.
So would you say amongst all the departments that we have, what's the percentage of departments that have helped migrate more towards you know, being supportive? I mean, who are our outliers? Are we talking about 10% of our departments still being kind of outliers in running independent? Or where are we in terms of achieving that?
I would say the will and the intent of most departments is good, but the day-to-day becomes problematic. You know, we spend a lot of time with LAPD, LAFD, emergency management, and others, but quite often they're trying to build things under the circumstances of an emergency or
Right.
responding to the latest crisis. So sometimes with public safety, it's hard to kind of align them and rally them, or someone in the department will have a very strong opinion how we have to use this platform as opposed to the city's platform. So I think most departments agree with the concept, and as we do things that are centralized APIs and centralized identity management, centralized hosting, there's a lot of things we're doing that people are consolidating on. I think people are starting to realize that IT is not big and bad or any of those other aspects, and that will actually make them look good. It's very Vidal Sassoon. If they don't look good, we don't look good. Because we want Angelinos to feel that the city looks good. And so, I think it has been getting a lot better, but we're often finding that the day-to-day gets to get in the way. They've got their own budgets, sometimes they have their own staff, and it's just sometimes hard to keep everything coordinated together.
Right. Well, please, always feel free to reach out and leverage as a resource with me where I can help, particularly when it comes to public safety. I know we had tried, we continue to work to facilitate those relationships, but I have complete confidence in your work and that of your team, and I know how much money has been spent on other efforts, and I don't even want to say spent, I'd rather say squandered. And so I think, when we talk about life through a pandemic and we talk about the realities of how we're impacting, we're looking at budgets and we're reflecting at that. I've said it many times. This is the moment where we can force more rapid change as a result of the financial implications of not doing something. And so it's an opportunity for us to let go of the old and migrate to things that are going to be far more effective, bring new innovation, and simplify processes, and let go of things that frankly are, highly tailored, not able to communicate or exchange with other platforms so that we can actually have better metrics that we can reflect on how we do business in the city, and we should be able to evaluate ourselves with those basic, with some of those basic technological applications. So, okay, well, of course, let me know, and separately, I just let you know we're going to be reaching out to talk on some other issues where we see some opportunities to continue to do some refining and some of that good work that you guys do. So thank you all very much. Thank you to your team.
Councilman Bloomfield, do you have any?
Sure, just echo everything that my colleagues have just said and appreciate all the good work you're doing. You talked about the Smart Cities 2028. I'm really excited about that. I've been working with you on Smart City stuff for a long time.
That's right.
And I know you've got your subgroups, but just give us a real quick preview of what's the most exciting smart city thing we're going to hear about in that report.
Oh gosh, there's a lot. We break it into 5 areas. So we've got infrastructure, digital services, data, connectivity, and digital inclusion. And so we cover all these different areas. I think some of the most exciting will be on the data side, a citywide data lake. So we're going to have easily accessible, well-curated data, both for people inside of the city to be much smarter on how they operate, as well as making it available on the open data portal. I think that's a super exciting one. We have very exciting work being done on the infrastructure side around identifying methods and means for us to facilitate fiber optic projects. For some of the things I know that your office and others are very, very strongly passionate about, to try to help us bridge the digital divide by getting public-private partnerships, getting access to fiber, even coming up with methods to be able to reduce costs for those who do the install, but give us access to that dark fiber. We have really cool work being done on the digital services side around things like for folks with disabilities, et cetera, to improve our accessibility. So we have like a really long list of, I think, really cool, very powerful. We have a project in there to make all of our digital services available in the language of people's choice. So whether we're using automated or human-driven translation, ensuring that every City of Los Angeles app and website can be readable and understandable in the language of someone's choice. So there's very powerful projects that we have as a part of it, and we look forward to discussing it more.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Bloomfield. Well, thank you, Ted, again for joining us today. We really appreciate it and look forward to all the future updates of all the great work you guys are doing.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, can you read what's the next item?
Item number 2 is a City Administrative Officer report relative to the first construction projects report for fiscal year 2020-2021, and this matter is also referred to the Budget and Finance Committee.
Okay, I believe we have someone here from, is that you, Mr. Lawson?
Yeah, good afternoon, Chairman Lee, members of the committee. Justin Lawson here representing the CAO. I'll briefly introduce the report and then I can answer questions. Before you is the first 2020-21 construction projects report. This report recommends a total of $20.59 million in transfers and appropriations for previously authorized construction projects. Of this amount, $4.99 million to the Public Works Bureau of Engineering, $4.92 million to the General Services Department, and $10.68 million to be transferred to other city funds. There are no known impacts to the general fund in connection with the authorized projects covered in this report. Any potential increase in operations and maintenance costs associated with any project will be addressed through the city budget process as projects are completed. We have various representatives in attendance today to address any specific questions. Thank you.
Okay, the reason why I flagged this was just for item GG regarding animal services facilities. I know there's been talk, and actually this affects Councilmember Blumenfield and myself about the West Valley Animal Shelter and some of the improvements that are made. Is that something that's actually scheduled to happen regardless of what's going on in the budget? Because I know that some of those shelters might actually be put to non-city use, but same as being used as animal shelters, but for nonprofits to run.
I think I'll need to defer to the CA Municipal Facilities Chief, Bernice Collins, to answer that question. Bernice, are you able to provide comment? Or a representative from GSD? Chairman, I think I might need to get back to your staff and answer that question.
Okay. Yeah, if you just get back to us, Justin, I appreciate that. Councilman Blumenfield, do you have any concerns with that? No? Okay. Well, thanks, Justin. Yeah, if you could get back to me, just curious as to what improvements we're making there, and if we're still following through with it regarding if we're waiting for the general manager's next report on what we're going to be doing with those facilities.
Sure, will do. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Lawson. All right. Mr. Clerk, I believe next item, number 9.
Item number 9 is the Municipal Facilities Committee report relative to authorizing the repurposing of $3 million in MICLA funding for proposed space improvements to the Los Angeles Mall located at 201 North Main Street to house the Civil and Human Rights Commission. And there is a technical correction to the Municipal Facilities Committee report to be read into the record by the Office of the City Administrative Officer.
Mr. Clerk, before we move on to that, I apologize for taking things a little bit out of order. I believe we have to vote on number 2 to move it.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Lee?
Aye.
Councilmember Blumenfield?
Blumenfield, aye.
Councilmember Rodriguez? 2 ayes.
Councilman Rodriguez had to go somewhere, so
2 ayes. This item is approved.
thank you very much. And I believe, moving on to item number 9, I believe we have someone from the CAO's office, Ms. Cottier.
Hi there, this is Megan Cottier. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, we wanted to make a technical correction to the report. The technical correction updates one of the accounts from that the funding is being transferred from. It's the Solar Energy Installation Municipal Facilities account. The correct number is 50RTSF. And then also we're adjusting the distribution of funds from those accounts. 2.2 million will be going to an account to be determined for GSD, and 800,000 will be going to an account to be determined within BOE. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
No questions from me, Ms. Carrier. Mr. Bloomfield? No? Well, thank you, Ms. Carrier. I appreciate it. With that being said, with the technical amendment, Mr. Clerk, if we can.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Councilmember Lee,
Aye?
Councilmember Bloomfield,
Bloomfield, aye.
this item is approved as amended.
Thank you very much. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Item number 12 is an ITA report relative to raising awareness of and disseminating information on the availability of low-cost internet plans to disadvantaged and low-income communities, and encouraging wide dissemination of information contained on the Get Connected LosAngeles.LACity.org website by the Los Angeles Public Library, Department of Disability, Economic and Workforce Development Department, and the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. And please note that there's a community impact statement that has been submitted by the Greater Cypress Park Neighborhood Council.
Okay, do we have someone from ITA speaking on this item?
Yes, we should have William Imperial from ITA.
Mr. Imperial?
Let me ask Ms. Laura Ito if she could maybe speak to this item. Okay, Ted Ross it is.
Sorry, Ted. Hi, this is Laura Ito. Yes, the report before you addresses a request from Council for ITA to respond to questions about the digital divide and what kind of information the city is providing to residents and the kind of assistance that we can provide to residents, particularly regarding free or low-cost internet availability. So what we have referred you to is a website that we have worked on in conjunction with CWP and with Rec and Parks, and this is it's called Get Connected Los Angeles, and it's getconnected.lacity.org, and it's a website that references all kinds of free or low-cost internet services that are available through a variety of private companies. It also provides references to low-cost devices that that residents can obtain through a company called Human IT. So this is what we consider to be an up-to-date and best resource to provide references for residents of Los Angeles to get current information on what the city's vendors are providing right now.
Well, thanks, Ms. Ito. This is obviously extremely important with all the distance learning going on and making sure that, kids aren't being left behind. I know working with a local internet provider, Spectrum, in my area offers a lot of free, as you said, free or low cost ways to connect, which is so very important right now. All I ask is that, this website, as much as I like to think that Councilman Bloomfield like to think that there are 1,000 people listening to this committee meeting right now, but if we can figure out ways to advertise this with schools, maybe offer this on EDP bills, or any way to get this information out there in public, work with different media outlets, and just whatever we can. Is there any sort of plan put in place?
Certainly. I mean, ITA is the right department to handle that because we have really strong social media resources through our Channel 35. We also have 311 that can publicize this and try to promote it to callers, and even through our IVR, so that if callers are on hold, they might hear about this as a resource. So we'll really make an effort to try to promote this service to people, and also to continue to work with the vendors to keep it up to date and bring out any newer enhanced services that they are offering, because I think the telecoms have actually been pretty cooperative with the city, and they really recognize the vast need and are trying to be responsive. So we will continue to work with them to be sure that their latest offerings are made available on the site.
Great, yeah. I mean, if we could, work with either here or the schools, I mean, give me the information out of schools that we have this available to them so they can know where to go
Sure.
to find out if they have these would be fantastic. Councilman Bloomfield, do you have any question?
Well, I mean, like you, I think this is really important. I was a little shocked that you said not every Angelino is listening to this committee hearing. So that shocking. One question though, how are we addressing the folks who don't have internet access at all right now to get them the information? Because the greatest social media presence and website in the world isn't gonna help us if we're trying to get the attention of somebody who doesn't even have access at the moment.
Sure, and that's a really good point. We can try to work through AWP if it's a bill insert or notice there, and we're happy to work with any other entity that you suggest, including school district.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Kodak, I know that the instructions are to note and file this, but if we can, continue this item to get a report back from ITA at our next meeting to hear about how, because I just think it's extremely important that we get this information out there as much as possible. So if we can have that pushed over to the next committee item.
Yes, sir. May I call roll to continue the item?
Yep.
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Blumenfield.
Aye.
This item is approved to be continued with the report back.
Okay, great. Any other items on the desk?
The desk is clear, sir.
All right. Well, thank you very much for everybody for joining us at the ITS committee meeting today. I hope everyone has a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good job.
Thanks.
Everybody.